everybody. Welcome to Chiller Chat. Thanks for tuning in. And tonight on the show, we have Samantha Dehner, but you can call her Sam. How are you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Real good. Thanks for being on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Now, some of our viewers may or may not know this, but well, I don't know if they recognize you out of costume, but you on the show, on Chiller Night Theater, our companion show, are Elle. So what made you think of the name of Elle? Where's that come from?
We were coming up with the initial concept. We didn't know exactly how we wanted to go with it, but I've always been a huge Frankenstein fan, and I guess my original thought was like that she was Project Elle. That's like the toe tag she found or whatever, and one of the original stories or backstories or whatever that I came up with.
Okay.
And she just was not bright enough to not know that wasn't a name, so she thought her name was Elle.
Well, because Elle originally was a zombie.
Yes.
And I remember back when I was first starting to get to know you, we were doing some email exchange, and you were showing some costume ideas for a character on the show. At that time, it was Sleepy Hollow Theater, and you had a mummy, a variation like a mummy costume. You had like a.
I know I did one with like the streaks, but I don't remember if that was a Frankenstein character, if it was a variation of the mummy, and who knows? I just like playing dress up.
Well, and then this time my thinking was, because you had asked me if you wanted to be the zombie or a vampire or something, and I thought, well, we have Walter, the unseen zombie, the castle dwelling zombie, and so I thought, well, let's try for the vampire, because I'd seen you as a vampire before in the haunted house, Dark Domain, back when we were doing that together. So, but I was just like, what is it that that drew you to the show?
I was actually really upset. Not upset, but I moved out of the area, and I was talking to a friend back home, and she was telling me how we got a haunted house, and we have this hosted horror show, and I was like, where was this when I lived here? So as soon as I came back, I planned on being kind of obnoxious and just being like, how can I help?
Yeah. Well.
Any way to, because I think it's really awesome to have that in this area.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of a everything was kind of hitting at once. With the haunted house and the show, and with the wrestling program and everything. But you wanted to be on the show. I wanted to have you on there, and you had. I thought it was an interesting choice. Elle was a zombie, but she was kind of a. It was kind of
pinup zombie.
Like a pinup zombie, yeah. Like what made you think of that?
I was just trying to. I had a bunch of different. I don't know. I was very into the pinup look at the time too, and it just seemed like fun to try to mash them together. Like I said, I like to play dress up, so if I was dressing up as, it's not just fun to dress up as just a zombie or just a pinup girl. You got to combine them. Yeah,
it's kind of funny because in here in the TV studio we have plenty of room. That's not a luxury we used to have.
No, it's not.
We throughout the years we've had various locations that we filmed the show. Yeah.
10 by.
The worst one was.
10 by 8, maybe?
Yeah, it was basically like a storage closet, a large storage closet, and there was a lot of playing around with the positioning of the camera to make it look like a bigger room than what it was.
It looks way bigger.
Yeah, yeah, because
the fact that we had 3 people in that room and equipment and props is amazing.
It was amazing, and that large chair that's over in the other set there for the Chiller Night Theater, but that chair is 8 feet tall. It's a large chair, and we got it up in this big storage closet basically that was on the second floor of my home, and we were filming right out of there for a period of time. That's where, not always where the show was filmed, but we wanted to keep the show running, and so I guess where there's a will, there's a way.
I know that helped add to the want to be a zombie over everything, was that she was kind of brain dead, because in case I screwed up and in that room I had a big screw up when I tripped over my own feet, leaving the view of the camera for the one, but it worked, even though I fell into things.
I think I remember that.
Do you remember that?
I think I do remember that.
I just remember turning around on the floor and looking at you, and you're like, it's good.
Well,
crash.
Yeah.
It works for her leaving the room.
Yeah, it was fun doing it in that room because we would have guests come on every once in a while, and what people would be surprised to know, and I'm guessing this from the reactions that I've had so far, I'm telling people, is we had little pieces of tape on the floor, and I think people would really be surprised to know, like if you were not in the camera at that time, you were up against the wall. That's how little room we had to work with. And then when it was your cue to come on, you just kind of relax and become unattached to the wall and walk in, take your step, and now you're on set. So yeah, we've come a long way. Now we
absolutely
over yonder have the actual set. So I guess we're advancing. Now I see you have the Bride of Frankenstein T-shirt on. I know you love the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yes, I have probably 6 or 7 different Bride of Frankenstein shirts. That's my purse, that's my wallet, that's my house. It's not just limited to the Bride of Frankenstein, but primarily Universal monsters, anything that I can get my hands on.
Yeah.
The kids laugh because I have a bigger picture of Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster in my living room than I do of them in their school pictures.
But that's okay, it's Boris. So,
yeah.
Now, I know that you love the old classics, the Universals, like you said. What do you think about remakes?
I'm like...
Because there's two, like, don't touch them, or, okay.
Well, see, certain things like the Universal monster, they're not just... that's a story been told numerous times, and if I were to say that, then I wouldn't like the Hammer films, and I love those, and I wouldn't like, but some things I do hold very sacred, like when it's the Bride of Frankenstein, because that wasn't a tale told numerous times. At the same time, I did like the movie The Bride with Sting, and it's...
Well, the thing that got me thinking about that a couple nights ago, I was watching the People versus George Lucas, or maybe it's the other way around, George Lucas versus the People or something. And we were talking about the prequels and him doing the revisions like in '97 when they re-released the Star Wars movies. And they had the added special effects, and
which some of them are really horrible.
But
I have them.
Yeah,
I have them all too.
I have them all
that.
too. And there's
Han stepping over Jabba's, stepping on.
Yeah.
Or like the blatant, like it's just him kind of cut.
Moving up and
yes,
over. And it's neat about this show too is it is a we talk about horror and science fiction and stuff like that. So that's perfectly acceptable, to be discussing, the Star Wars on the Chiller Chat show. But that got me thinking about, because he was saying something about do not colorize the old classics. He was against that, and he says once they're out there, that shouldn't be tampered with. And then what's he do? 20 years later, he goes and tampers with his own movie and kind of messes with a classic. And I got to thinking, because I knew we were going to be filming this, I thought, well, that's a question I can be asking you. What is your take on remakes?
See, I think something like that, like the colorization, would be neat, so long as they don't make it so that you can now no longer get the originals that you loved, that you grew up with, that you hold sacred. Like if you had the option to see it. I have numerous copies of Nosferatu with different scores, which is really neat.
Yeah.
But it's that original one that's the one that I, hold true. So,
Right.
but like I was not a fan of the Evil Dead remake. I thought it was, I don't know, too Saw wannabe-ish.
Yeah, yeah.
I am more of a classic horror person though. And when I say classic horror, I do mean even like Evil Dead. I know it doesn't seem like it's that classic in comparison to, but
It's got that cult following,
Yeah.
so it kind of falls in that category.
it's, because I can do all the 80s slasher movies, and I guess that those are classics now because
Yeah.
we're getting old. But I don't think, when I think of classics, I think of like the Universal and the Hammer films.
Yeah. Those are, in my opinion, those are the best. Those are what
Yes.
got me hooked
Yes.
as a kid watching horror movies, and of course every Saturday night watching Chiller Theater. And, but a remake that I actually thought was well done was The Wolfman.
I did. I actually,
liked that movie. I thought that
expected
was-
to hate it.
Yeah.
Because I am so, but I like that they didn't change up the makeup a whole lot. Like,
Yeah.
they used enough modernization to it, but still held true to that original form. So it looks like your Wolfman. It's not like, like De Niro's Frankenstein, which
Yeah.
I thought was good too. I thought that movie was really good, but I want to see the box head. I want
Yeah.
to see the bolts in his neck. And
The Jack Pierce influence.
absolutely.
The look from the famous makeup artist from Universal back in the day did The Wolfman, did Frankenstein, did all the classic looks that we know now were from Jack Pierce. And yeah, I feel the same way. I thought that was a well done movie. I thought, I say that because you were wearing the Bride of Frankenstein shirt, and I hear they're going to
I've
be
heard
doing
that,
a
and I'm
remake of
very-
Bride of Frankenstein.
very, very worried about that.
I don't know if they have actors for this. or
I've
not.
heard many different, I've heard Scarlett Johansson and Angelina Jolie as the bride. I can't really say that I know anybody that I would be like, that person.
Yeah.
It would,
Not Johnny Depp, because he's in everything.
well, he's supposed to be in another one of the Universal remakes. I can't
You know,
remember
I
which
had
one.
heard that.
I think it's
The Invisible, is
yeah,
it The
The
Invisible
Invisible
Man?
Man. Yep.
Yeah. But that's, it's interesting. We're talking about remakes, and somebody online, everybody's an expert online on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, It's so strongly opinionated too about everything. I see this meme where people are saying, "Here's a rock," just to show somebody will argue about anything. And but they brought up the idea of colorizing the old Universals. As much as I love the classics,
I think it would be neat.
I would love to see a colorized version.
Like I said, as long as I can still have, which I already have them all anyhow, but as long as that's still available to people to get,
Yeah.
then I don't see any issue with that. It's not like they're changing the story or,
Right.
and like I
They're
said,
just-
some of those monsters, they've definitely been changed because it's not like it's only Universal.
Yeah.
There's been many Frankenstein tales, many
Right.
Dracula tales, but
And the one that you'd mentioned with Robert De Niro, that was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein with Kenneth Branagh. And
it was closer to the book.
that's where I was getting at. That version there was, they tried to get as much to the novel as they could, I guess. So I love watching that, but I just want to go back and watch the old Boris
Absolutely.
Karloff one.
Yep.
With him and then the Bride of Frankenstein. The Bride's actually probably my
That is
favorite.
my all-time favorite movie.
Yeah.
We have Bride of Frankenstein Day every April 22nd. That was its release date.
Is that right?
We have it every day,
Wow.
or every year.
That's funny. Now, what do you do do you have a tradition for Halloween? And I ask this because that for years and years, The Bride of Frankenstein was what I had to watch it on Halloween night every year, up until I started doing my haunted houses. That was like my tradition on Halloween, was to watch The Bride of Frankenstein.
Well, we will watch the Halloween series
Okay.
the week of Halloween. Halloween night is usually spent taking Izzy trick-or-treating. So,
What she
And
dread. I've seen her as the bride,
Oh yes, that costume actually won a national award for from Scares That Care,
Okay.
which was,
Oh, is that right?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
I think she was 2 or 3 at the time, but she was great with that. Just
That's funny. And she enjoys the haunted
Absolutely.
houses and everything, so I bet
she's
you're...
afraid of scary things, but that
That's
first year
funny.
that she did it, it is funny.
That's funny that you
considering
would say that, because she is so, she just loves
Acclimated
getting right in there and scaring the public as they
It
walk
was
through.
actually, I don't know if you remember that, her first year, that I had her in my room with me, and I told you guys that night that I didn't think that I would be able to stay. She just, because I had to go out there at one point before anything was done, before there was decorations up at all. We were dropping something off, I don't even remember what it was, and because I said we were going into the haunt, she was hiding her face in me, and I had to carry her the whole way through. It was like there was nothing scary.
Oh, is that right?
So the night that she threw a fit and wasn't going to Grandma's house, she was coming with me to the haunted house. I just thought, well, this isn't gonna happen at all, and put her on her cue. And the very first, I figured as soon as the lights went down and the music came on, and the very first people that came through claimed that she had made them pee themselves.
Is that right? Wow.
And she was hooked. Like, I couldn't even come out of my spot because I was laughing so hard at this adorable little creature that suddenly becomes this really scary little being.
That's funny. Well, and to some of the viewers, probably quite a bit know, or if you don't, Samantha was in the Dark Domain Haunted House. I had done a haunted house for many years, and you were in there with your daughter, and this. I thought she did a phenomenal job. I mean, she just had no fear, and she just
Absolutely loved it.
got into the part. I was doing my own thing with Jack Shadow, but every time I'd walk through to make sure, whenever we'd have a kind of a lull, or I'd walk behind a group and they didn't know I was there, and I'd be checking on actors, and you guys were hilarious in there. I just thought that.
She was so tiny too, that her first year. I mean, she is a petite kid, but she was so tiny. I remember they thought that she was one of those zombie babies that you can get, like an animatronic.
Oh yeah.
Because we had her chewing on an arm or something, sitting in the corner, so she was as far away from people as possible. But at a certain point, she would drop it and just stand up, and that was it. They would just lose it.
What's funny is most of the reactions from the people were they were scared, they were having fun. But you had some negative feedback, didn't
yes.
you?
Yes,
I'd hear that some of the people didn't care for the fact that there was a child in there in a horrific scenario, a zombie or something like that. I thought she did a great job.
At the same time, she was having fun. I was having fun with my kid.
Yeah. What's the whole thing about horror? Being subjective like that. What's scary to you, or what's offensive to you is not, someone else doesn't even think about. And I find that interesting, especially in a setting like a haunted house, or even the show that we do. I mean, when we first started the show, there were actually some people who didn't even want to watch it, because they thought that this was it's horror, and it's related to horror. That's all they knew. And they saw the Jack Shadow character, and that was enough. They didn't know that it was going to be a family-friendly program. They didn't know that it was going to incorporate some comedic element to it. And so there you had a small little division, before they even knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Just by looking at it, the appearance. But what do people think about you being on the show? Have you had any feedback on that yet? I know you're jumping back into it now after we took some time off.
I've actually asked my kids, like the older ones too, would this bother you? If your friends at school saw me on TV, would that embarrass you? Because kids are embarrassed by everything that their parents do, and they actually think it's really cool, and so they're okay with it. My mom thinks, it's neat. I'm sure my dad thinks I'm just playing dress up and
Yeah.
never grew up. I have had people that think it's a little weird that I know this past year for Halloween, I actually wore everything that I would wear as the Elle character to work. And
How'd that go?
well, it was good. My employers are foreign, and when I came in, one of them had seen me, but the other one did not. And we were hiring a new girl that day. And he was under the impression that I was the new girl. I scared him to the point he hit the floor, and
He didn't
I felt really
recognize you?
bad. No, he
Is
didn't.
that right? That's funny.
Yeah. And then once he knew it was me, he told me I was scary and I needed to wash my face.
Is that right? Oh, geez. Would you have blood on your face?
No, I actually didn't have the blood. I just
Oh.
fangs and the contacts and
Geez.
dramatic makeup. And
Yeah. Well, but that was Halloween. You would think
Right.
that would be expected. People
Not
dress
everywhere.
up. No. That wasn't announced. That could be dress up day.
Well, I mean, it was. Then I was the only person that dressed up.
Naturally.
Yeah.
But
Give me the green light. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, well, I know on the show with Chiller Night Theater, it doesn't take much prompting. You're always
Yeah.
eager
Yep.
to be on the show. Yeah, now was that, this is the first time you're playing a vampire on the show. Was that, did you mind changing from the zombie to the
No,
vampire
not
character?
at all. I mean, I like doing both.
Yeah.
But-
Completely different personalities, though,
Yes.
because Elle was the kind
Kind
of
of
the,
ditzy and
yeah, the dimwit, lovable zombie. Okay, going back to the remakes, are there any that you would like to see?
I'd be interested in seeing all of them. I'm just cautious. Like I said, I really expected to not like the Wolfman at all, and I loved it. I really thought it was done well. The biggest one that I'm really, really terrified of is The Bride of Frankenstein, because that is my favorite. But
Yeah.
it could be done okay, maybe, I hope. It's like hope for the best, but expect the worst.
Yeah,
That's-
right. Well, one that I really like, and it's a science fiction, is War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. I enjoyed that remake.
Did you see The Mummy with Tom Cruise?
I did, and I really liked War of the Worlds. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were watching it only for entertainment, it was an entertaining movie. But if you were a classic horror movie fan, I don't think there's really a whole lot on there to like. A bit of nostalgia from this combination of characters that have popped up in the old Universal movies. But I'm not a big fan of that. When they did the Van Helsing back with Hugh Jackman, who played Van Helsing back, when was that, 2006 or 7 or whatever.
Probably even before that. Even.
Yeah, it could have been. I actually, I fell asleep in the theater.
Yeah.
I literally fell asleep in the theater. I think that the thought is we can do all these great effects. But I was just like, oh my gosh, I was so bored with the story. I didn't think that they did the monsters justice. I was watching this special on a DVD packet or something, and they were interviewing the director. He said, if you love the old classic Universal monster movies, you're gonna love this movie. And so, okay, well maybe. I kind of doubt it, but I'll check it out. And I didn't see any resemblance or not even the resemblance. It was that feel, the atmosphere. I mean, I thought that was really missing because of the special effects. You could watch those old movies and
You don't need all that. I
You
mean,
don't
there
need-
were, for the time, some of those
Yeah.
effects were amazing,
yeah.
but,
Maybe not so much with a rubber bat bouncing up and down
well,
on the
no,
string.
but that's just wonderful anyhow. I mean, because I can get into the Ed Wood stuff too,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Speaking of Ed Wood, why not a Plan 9 from Outer Space remake? If you think about it, the
They
story.
had a re-envisioning,
It-
and it's just called Plan 9.
Is that right?
Yes.
I hadn't heard about that. I'm going to have, is it out in the theaters or is it,
No,
are they
it's-
making it?
It's done. I don't know if it's on Netflix. It's on one of the channels on my Roku.
Mm-hmm.
If you just, I don't know if you have a Roku box, but you can search it out, Plan 9. And you're probably going to find Plan 9 from Outer Space and have to scroll down and try to find.
I'm going
'cause
to
it
have to
was-
check that out.
I haven't watched it yet. It was one of those things that, because I do love Plan 9 from Outer Space so much that I,
If you even watched The Walking Dead, if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, and if you're a fan of science fiction, you know, you could put those together and basically do something. You know, that's what Plan 9 was. If you think about the story is actually kind of a scary concept. Alien
Grave
beings
Robbers
coming.
from Outer Space was
Yeah.
what it was originally called, right?
What was
Grave
it?
Robbers from Outer
Oh yeah,
Space.
yeah. And then they had to change the name because of the Baptist church or whoever was or producing or producing the movie. I forget the details of it, but they wanted the name changed. They thought it was a sacrilege title or something of that. Go see the movie Ed Wood. It explains everything. You know, it's a well done movie. But
Johnny Depp's also in that.
yeah, of course, Johnny Depp's in that movie. So, well, I don't know, anything to add before we call it a night?
No, that I can think of.
Well, I want to thank you for being here tonight, being a guest on Chiller Chat, and I want to thank you for being on Chiller Night Theater, and
I want to thank you for letting me play dress up all the time.
yeah, and me. And we want to thank you, of course, our viewers who've tuned in to watch Chiller Chat. And don't forget about our companion show, Chiller Night Theater. So with that, have a good night, everybody. Thanks again.
How many times do I have to tell you, just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad?